What if your deepest belief, your guiding truth, was never true at all? Throughout the story of Halo, we explore this question through the eyes of the Arbiter, one of the Covenant's most faithful warriors, molded by the religious structure that made up his entire society. His devotion was steel, his faith unbreakable. He was a blade, tempered in belief, wielded with divine abandon. But what happens when the steel bends? When the faith fractures? When a warrior forged in certainty is forced to wield doubt? Much like Master Chief and his unyielding loyalty to the chain of command, the Arbiter's rigid belief in the Covenant's great journey threatens to consume him. This is the story of the Arbiter, Thel Vadamee, and the cost of his blind faith. Before the shame, before the truth, before the title and the silver armor, there was Thel Vadamee, a warrior without equal, a zealot without question. His unwavering faith and devotion to the Covenant, its hierarchy in the pursuit of the great journey, had served him well. The prophets were the spiritual leaders. Protecting them were the elites, who formed both the ruling council and the military leadership of the alien coalition known as the Covenant. Thel quickly rose through the ranks, becoming a shipmaster, and eventually being promoted to Supreme Commander of the Fleet of Particular Justice. This was the fleet that attacked Reach, homeworld of the Spartans and one of humanity's greatest strongholds. Under his command, Reach burned. Cities crumbled, skies turned to glass. But to Thel Vadamee, it was not slaughter. It wasn't cruelty. It was divine will made manifest. Shortly after this, while pursuing the UNSC Pillar of Autumn, Halo, Installation 04 was discovered. This was an unprecedented leap forward in the Covenant's great journey. However, as Supreme Commander of the fleet, Thel Vadamee was held personally responsible for Master Chief and Cortana's destruction of the Halo Ring. Faith had carried him to the stars. Now, faith had abandoned him. For his iniquities, he was branded with a mark of shame and sentenced to death. The decree was absolute. He had failed. He was unworthy. The mark of shame was burned into his flesh, a wound that would never heal. But before his sentence could be carried out, the prophets of truth and mercy intervened.
What of the council?
The tasks you must undertake are perilous, suicidal. You will die. The council will have their corpse.
Before the sword could fall, the prophets offered him a different kind of death. A slower one. A crueler one. They called it an honor. They called it redemption. They called it the Arbiter. His first trial as the Prophet's Blade was not to face demons, nor armies, nor monsters. It was to silence those who had dared to question. The Arbiter was sent to hunt down and silence a group branded by the prophets as heretics. These apostates dared to question the doctrine of the Covenant and even go so far as to insinuate that the prophets were fallible. So he did what he had always done. He hunted. He killed. He didn't question why. During a final confrontation with the leader of the heretics, the Arbiter discovered that they were being guided by an oracle, Guilty Spark 343, the monitor of the first Halo Ring, an actual source of truth.
Oracle, great journey. Why do you meddlers insist on using such inaccurate verbiage?
Before the Arbiter can grasp it, it is torn from him, ripped away by the brutes, by the very hands that would soon replace his kind. Things continued their downward spiral, as the elites were unceremoniously ousted from their ancestral positions as guardians of the prophets. The Arbiter and the elites had spent their lives in service to the prophets, carrying their word, dying for their will. Now, the brutes took their place. A move the prophets claim is in response to Master Chief assassinating the Prophet of Regret. However, it conveniently also serves to weaken the position of the elites in the Covenant hierarchy. The elites were cast aside, disposable, unworthy. This culminated in the Arbiter's next assignment, the retrieval of the Index, a key required to activate Halo. He skirmished with Sergeant Johnson and Commander Keyes before the brutes again intervened.
Excellent work, Arbiter. The Hierarchs will be pleased.
Nikon is my responsibility.
Was your responsibility. Now it is mine. A bloody fate awaits you and the rest of your incompetent race. And I, Tartarus, chieftain of the brutes, will send you to it.
When the prophets learn of this, they will take your head.
When they learn. Fool. They ordered me to do it.
This time, Tartarus showed his hand. He admitted to conspiring with the prophets. The chieftain didn't gloat. He didn't need to. The Arbiter, once the Covenant's sword, a symbol of divine will and justice, was now a loose thread, something to be cut. The brute's hammer swung, and Thel Vadamee fell, down into the dark, down where the truth was waiting.
This one is machine and nerve, and has its mind concluded. This one is but flesh and faith, and is the more deluded.
The Arbiter awakened in the jaws of something older than faith, older than gods. A voice like rot, like ruin, like the end of all things. The grave mind did not command. It did not threaten. It did what the prophets had never done. It told him the truth. The sacred rings were never meant to guide them home to a paradise, only to wipe them from existence, to erase, to burn. Forced into an uneasy alliance with the demon he once sought to destroy, the Arbiter's perspective began to shift. His belief in the great journey was shattered, but rather than dwell on despair, Thel Vadamee, the Arbiter, does what he has always done. He fights. Only now he fights for something real. No longer is he a pawn of the Covenant, no longer a blade for the prophets to wield. He begins forging his own path. The elites, too, rebel against their former masters, joining forces with humanity in a desperate battle against the Covenant and the Flood. The enemy he once saw as heretical and unworthy now fights beside him. Not for gods, not for faith, but for survival. As the war reaches its climax, the Arbiter is faced with his ultimate test. The Prophet of Truth, the last architect of the Covenant's lies. The execution is swift. A blade once used in blind service now delivers justice, not as an act of vengeance, but as a final severance from the old ways. And in that instant, the Covenant was undone. Yet the war did not end. The rings remained. The Flood persisted. And in the silence that followed the death of gods, Thel Vadamee was left with the question no blade was meant to ask. What now? The Arbiter's journey mirrors that of Master Chief. But where Master Chief must navigate loyalty and duty within a rigid military structure, the Arbiter must unravel the deeply ingrained faith that once defined him. His story is not of one abandoning belief entirely, but of forging a belief that is his own, one built on truth rather than dogma. We are all given truths. From the moment we opened our eyes, we inherited belief. We are told what is sacred, what is worth fighting for, what is worth dying for. But truth is not given. It is found.
Go ahead. Do your thing. The sacred rings, what are they?
Weapons of last resort, built by the Forerunners to eliminate potential flood hosts, thereby rendering the parasite harmless.
And those who made the rings? What happened to the Forerunners?
After exhausting every other strategic option, my creators activated the rings. They and all additional sentient life in 3 radii of the galactic center died as planned.
The Arbiter's story is not one of rejection nor blind rebellion. It is a story of discernment, of burning away the falsehoods to forge something real. What do we hold on to because it is true? What do we cling to because we fear what it means to let go? The Arbiter teaches us that growth does not come from blind obedience, nor from blind rejection, but from the willingness to search, to question, and ultimately to choose. So ask yourself, when the fire comes, when the steel bends, when the truth cuts deep, will you cling to the ashes? Or will you forge something new? What do you believe? And why? Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned and stick around. I'll be releasing new videos like this one every week. If you enjoyed this video, check out my other breakdown on Master Chief and his own search for the truth.